George Floyd, a black man, was murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis on May 25th this year, 2020. His knee was on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds for committing a non-violent crime. And somewhere in the middle of that, he died. This is nothing new. This has been happening everywhere, not just America, and people are finally getting together to say enough is enough. Who would disagree? Who would disagree? This is not political. This is basic human rights. There's 4 things in particular here that I want to discuss. The last one, I'm unsure how people will feel about it, but I strongly believe it. The other 3 just have to do with the situation right now. Firstly, Black Lives Matter. Back when BLM came about an amount of years ago, I saw plenty of people talking about, well, all lives matter, right? I was like, yeah, you know what? I thought that made more sense. It was more inclusive and included everybody, because who wouldn't think all lives matter? Of course all lives matter. Until I allowed myself to be educated, and I lowered my defenses, realizing I was wrong. And this was years ago. This is not new that I had realized this. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean only Black Lives Matter. Of course, all lives matter. Nobody disagrees with that. But right now, we need to remind those in power that Black Lives Matter, because they seem to forget. Racism is nothing new in this country. It's nothing new for anywhere. I shouldn't have to explain that to you. Saying all lives matter is like going to a birthday party and exclaiming, hey, I have a birthday too. Why are we celebrating this person's birthday? Yeah, no, everybody has a birthday. But today, it's their birthday. We're going to celebrate their birthday. Right now, black people are being oppressed, and we need to stand up for them and speak out for our black brothers and sisters to support them. On July 4th, should we go around saying, all countries matter? Why are we celebrating America today? On 9/11, should we go around parading, all buildings matter? Why do we have to remember these two? That doesn't sound right. It's not political. It's human rights. I shouldn't have to explain it any further. I shouldn't have to explain it all, but there you have it. Secondly, police brutality. That is not an issue just to America. It's happening wherever there are police, pretty much. I think we can all agree that there is police brutality. I think a main argument is people will say, well, if you just listen to them, they won't harass you. They won't inflict damage upon you. Two things to say to that. First of all, let's remember just a few weeks ago when everybody got tired of sitting at home, they went out and protested to go outside, and there's videos and pictures of people screaming, cursing, yelling at cops in their face, up in their personal business, cursing at them. Really brutal. And they do nothing. They do nothing. Funny enough, it's all white people too. At least for the most part. I cannot account for every single person that was at every single protest. But in the videos that I've seen of them screaming and yelling and the police doing nothing, it's strangely all white people. Secondly, let me ask, is it acceptable to push an old man down, have his head bleeding, and walk past him ignoring him because he didn't stand back? Is it excusable to lift up a person's face mask and spray them in the face with pepper spray because they didn't stand back? Is that acceptable? Is it acceptable and excusable to beat a person's fist to try to break their hand because they didn't stand back? Is that acceptable? Is it acceptable to kneel on someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? Is that acceptable? Is that excusable? We should agree that there is police brutality. I think what not everybody agrees on, where there's two sides, is not all cops are good cops and not all cops are bad cops. Just honestly, yeah, there's a lot of cops in the world. You don't know every single individual person. You can't tell if they're a good or bad person, obviously. However, the main point to make here is that if you are silent, you are compliant. That does not make you a good cop. Just because you're not the one behind bars, the one in the Twitter video, doesn't mean you're a good cop. If you know that cop, if you are a cop and you know that person, and you did nothing, that's not a good cop. No. And this stuff happens everywhere, regularly. I find it hard to imagine that there are many good cops out there that speak up on this. Bottom line is, if you are silent, you are compliant. And with the cops, it definitely is a race thing. I know a lot of people will say something like, what about all the white people that get killed by cops? There's way more of those, right? Well, there's a lot more white people in America. So obviously the number is going to be bigger. It's the rate at which black people get killed is the problem. Black Americans only make up about 13% of the U.S. population and are 2.5 times as likely as white Americans to be killed by the police. It's also the situations that they're in when they get killed, which is just unjust, such as Tanisha Anderson. She was having a bad mental health episode, and her brother called 911. Tamar Rice was playing in a park. Walter Scott was going to an auto parts store. Dominique Clayton was sleeping in her bed, and Breonna Taylor was also just sleeping in her bed. George Floyd was at the grocery store. Obviously, there is some more to these situations, but they're pretty basic situations, not the kind of situation where you would end up killing someone. There's plenty of white people across America that have committed acts of terrorism almost monthly, sometimes weekly. It's pretty frequent here. And a lot of them don't even end up dead. They end up in jail. But these people that are in parks, at grocery stores, in their bed, they end up dead. How is that right? How is that right? How is that right? Thirdly, the protests, more specifically, the riots and vandalism. I'm quite torn on this, honestly. On one hand, there was this video of this black woman in New York yelling, screaming at protesters, seemingly as they were dispersing, to look around at the damage that they had caused to their community and their homes. Homeless people, for example, relied on so many things that they had now destroyed. Things were burning, things were just... It was bad. You know, obviously, that's not good. On the other hand, it's quite understandable. You may have heard this quote getting used a lot from MLK, who's getting brought up a lot recently as well. A riot is the language of the unheard. There have been peaceful protests. A football player kneeled during a song and people lost their shit and nothing happened. That was a couple years ago. You know, people are pissed, and rightfully so. This has been going on for too long. Something needs to happen. I don't blame anyone for causing an uproar. I don't necessarily support it. It's, you know, hurting innocent lives and people. But can you blame them? They're pissed. Innocent people are dying. And nothing is getting done about it. Acting peacefully has gotten nowhere. Acting peacefully has gotten nowhere. So I get it, but it is bad for some innocent people and store owners, for example. Another point to make here is that a lot of these protests do start out peaceful until the cops show up and start inflicting, just harassing people and making it worse. There's videos of cops on their intercoms, whatever you call it, using racial slurs, just saying to just shoot them down, things like that. Like, that's not right. Just important to note that the cops are partially to blame here. I mean, well, they're entirely to blame. I mean, this wouldn't be happening if they were just doing their job right. But what can I say? Fourthly, now let me preface this again by saying I strongly believe in this and I stand by it firmly. However, I understand that it can be a case-by-case kind of deal. And again, people are pissed and have every right to be. However, I strongly encourage to be respectful to others. That's my controversial statement. Do not judge and be respectful. And I want to hear this all out for me, please. Humor me. Now, I try not to judge people. I am guilty of it. Absolutely. I'm sure we all are. Who doesn't judge somebody subconsciously? It's pretty human. But I recognize it and I do my best to practice not doing it. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard to be respectful and non-judgmental. But hear me out. Think about it. You are the way you are because of how you were raised, where you were born, what kind of family you were born into, a community that you grew up in, the kind of parents that raised you, the friends and family that you had. That's what you grew up with, and what they knew is now what you know. And sure, you had your own experiences growing up, but still, those core life values that you learned at a young age are partially what make you today. Racism, for example, is not an inherent trait. Racism is learned. There are people that grow up in communities that have a lot of racist people, and their parents are racist, and they insist on racist ideologies upon their children, and they just grow up to be like that. Can you blame them? Can you blame them for that? At least that much. You don't get to choose what you're born into. You don't get to choose the family you have, the community that you're born into. That's not your choice. It's not your fault. Now, keep that in mind while I try to make my main point here. Let's have a scenario. Let's say you're on Twitter. You tweet something, somebody replies disagreeing. Doesn't matter if it's hateful, negative, or respectful. You disagree with it. So you reply to that saying "fuck you," or you try to diss them, you try to burn them, and then it's just a thread of just trying to one-up each other again and again. That doesn't help anything. That doesn't help anyone. I never liked that. I hate it. I don't like that kind of communication. That's not communication. That's not communicating. The point, though, is when you reply to someone telling them to piss off, they're not going to be like, "Oh, you're right. I should piss off. You're absolutely right. I am a dumb idiot." That doesn't happen. I think we all know that doesn't happen. Yet we do it anyways for the likes and the retweets and then the whatever else. Do it for the clout. And again, I want to reiterate. I know it's hard. There's some real assholes out there, and it's hard to be respectful to them. But I encourage it. I do. Because think about it. Like I said, if you just don't act respectful, they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to stand even stronger on my point." They're not going to realize the wrongs of their ways because you told them to piss off. They're going to stand even stronger on their point, and they're not going to change. They're going to be even more closed-minded to change because these core values that they grew up with are suddenly being told to just be pissed off by some random person on the internet. Of course, that's doing nothing for no one. But when you act respectful and you give them the opportunity to realize, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are right. Which isn't going to happen if you tell them to piss off. If you encourage positive growth, you could see some positive growth. And I know some people can be very, very stubborn. People are stubborn. I'm stubborn. Some people can be extremely stubborn. And I don't expect just being respectful to just change everything. If you can just be nice, everyone will be like, "Oh, you know what? Oh, thanks for being so nice to me. You're right. I will respect your opinion and change my mind." Like, I know that's not going to happen, but it's worth trying. It's worth allowing someone the safe opportunity without judgment to realize maybe I'm wrong, and to allow them to want to be educated, to want to know more. It's worth a try. Because when you tell them to piss off, it doesn't help anyone. They're just going to stand stronger on their point, and they're just going to keep voting for the same bigoted politicians, and nothing is going to change. Because the most useful thing that you can do to incite change is to vote. Make sure you are registered to vote. And I'm not just talking about the presidential election. I'm talking about like voting for House, for Senate, for local elections. Did you know you could vote for your sheriff? I don't even know you could vote for your local sheriff. They usually run unopposed. But you should probably look into it. Vote. Vote the bigoted politicians out of office and vote for the people that you believe can incite the best change. Please be respectful of others. Try not to judge. I know it's hard. I don't know how people are going to feel about me saying this. I mean, I'm literally just saying be nice. I understand people can be really, really big assholes, and you're like, and you're telling me to be nice to them? Yeah, kind of. Because if you're not, they're definitely not going to change their opinion, and they're probably going to vote. You can at least try. It's at least worth trying. I strongly believe that. What can I say? That's just the kind of person I am. I just have too much hope for everyone. Just very much want to be a peacemaker. I put myself in other people's shoes, and I encourage you to think about that more often as well. I'm always going to use my platform, big or small. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care if nobody listens. I'm going to speak up because, again, being silent is being compliant. Please be respectful in the comments. Hopefully I don't have to turn them off, but I will. I'll delete comments. Just be respectful, okay? No exceptions. And just real quick, for those that are subscribed, wondering what the hell is going on, I will... Twitch will be happening soon. Stuff will be coming up here on YouTube soon. I'm just trying to chill out for a little bit. Okay. I'm just trying to get myself back together. I've been having anxiety attacks like every day, sometimes multiple times a day since this started. It's been getting better. I'm getting more numb to it all, but I'm just trying to get back together. So Black Lives Matter. The police need a reform. Please protest if you can. Donate if you can. I'll leave plenty of links about plenty of things below. Just please be respectful. Maybe I'm wrong about all of that, you know. They say no justice, no peace. But at least be respectful to those that you disagree with, because it could make a difference. That's all I'm trying to say. This is not scripted or anything. These are all just my feelings, my thoughts. Thank you all so much for your time. I love you all, and I'll see you soon. But there is no peace when there is no justice.